A very good morning. Is it morning here? Yes, it is still morning, I believe. Somewhat morning. We don't have to look too precise at the time. I was chopping wood and I just had to make a video. I was thinking about something that happened yesterday, and it felt important enough for me to make a video about it, because certain experiences must be shared to solve problems that we also share in this world. So why not make a video? It's all about sharing, it's all about caring. It's not about preaching or teaching, it's just maybe you can learn something from it. Maybe I can learn something from the comments that I didn't think about, who knows. So I was chopping some wood. I was actually making kindling. For those who don't know, kindling is you take a block of wood and slice it into pieces, chop it into pieces, and you can easily light a fire. My wood stove has a very narrow chimney, so I tend to break up my firewood in smaller pieces so I get more heat from it. It burns way quicker, but it gives me the heat that I need to comfortably heat up everything in the house. Otherwise, the house will still get warm using these big blocks, but there is hardly any draw through the wood stove and the chimney. So I will, like today, it's 5 degrees Celsius outside, and I may be able to get it to 20 degrees in the room or 22 degrees, but I try to heat this particular space also, and the upstairs as well, to save a little bit of gas costs. That works better when I make a lot of smaller blocks. Not as thin as kindling per se, but just I make kindling and maybe a few bigger blocks here and there. Works really well for me. Now that I'm here, I'm gonna light a pipe with let's take Peterson nightcap. We're talking about fire, so you can't really go wrong with Peterson nightcap. I love the logo. You cannot go wrong with the smell of Peterson nightcap. I'm taking a church warden because, well, I'm a Tolkien fan, I'm a Lord of the Rings fan, and I try to live in that particular fashion, in that particular way. So, and I enjoy it. I enjoy the whole, well, is it an act? Or is it not an act? When it's an act, when is it LARPing, and when does it become real? It feels pretty real for me. The more I do it, the more real it gets. Now I'm just gonna load a half a pipe. I'm not gonna smoke a whole pipe now. I need to get busy after this video. But still enough to have a good time. Now I've wrote some things down that I wanted to talk about. I don't want to forget stuff. That's also one of the downsides of making a video. Sometimes you just forget about stuff, and you have the video done, and then you go like, oh yeah, I wanted to tell about this very, very important point. Not so much, but it's good to include everything. The smell. The smell of a bonfire or throwing herbs on the barbecue. I remember so well because my father did that. When we had a barbecue, my father would throw herbs on it. And it's that typical smell. Lovely. So I'm gonna talk about my oldest son again. He's such a beautiful kid. He really is the driver of a lot of conversation and fun in the household. But he likes to go past that sometimes. Yesterday I was smoking a cigar in the woodshed, and all my children were downstairs, and I felt like my oldest son can pay a little attention here, and he can really pay attention to our youngest child, and it's a safe situation. But he was my youngest child is our daughter. He was playing with her, and she has this doll, and she's very happy with the doll. She really feels like that's a real baby, and she's careful with that. But she also tends to take on traits of her brothers, of course, right? And at some point, I was looking from the shed. I could look inside of the house, and my oldest son was throwing the doll around like some pagan ritual. And I had to do something about it. I had to step in, and tell him that that's not okay. You cannot do that because your little sister treats that doll as something real, as a real baby. And she likes to take care of that. And then when she sees you throwing the doll around, that gives mixed messages, right? And later, one of our children, one of our sons, also threw the doll around. Now, ignorantly, we named him Odin when he was born, not realizing the whole pagan history. So him throwing the doll around is pretty worthless in itself. And then my daughter also picked the doll up and threw it around. And then I had to get angry to her and say, look, I don't want to see this. You have to be careful. We're expecting a young boy, so it's quite important for her to learn how to deal with the baby also. Now, we don't have to panic here, right? It's not like when your child throws a doll around and later in life that happens as well with real babies. It's not that it's not that much of a problem, obviously, but you want to raise them well. That's simple. You want to raise them well. So we had a conversation about that, and I told my son, I told my daughter, look, this is not how we do it. You have to show respect, even if it's a doll. For her, it's more, and that's that. And the way I did that was, and of course, this is a very heated topic. Like, how do you explain something like this? So I told my son, look, you do not have to follow every thought that happens in your mind, because he does that pretty much. Every thought that comes up, he acts like that. Beautiful. So I said to him, look, not every thought is worth doing something with it. Sometimes you have to let it go. Just let it go. It's nothing special. Just, and that's a conversation that goes really deep into my own experiences and many practices that I've done, whether it's in meditation or Buddhist practices or now with Christianity and prayer. To some people it's a quite frightening topic, but to other people it's very easy. They have a thought, they let it go. You walk by a store, you see a nice blazer like this. There is a thought, I want to buy this, but you have no money, so you easily let go of the thought. And that's how easy you can let go of thoughts, pretty much, if they haven't become traumatic to you. And this made me think about behavior in general, like women amongst each other. These days you have all kinds of hypes. Women flaunting their behinds and their roundings by the clothing they wear in the gym, for example. It wouldn't be a bad thing to have women amongst each other talk about that. And the same goes for men. When men make jokes about women or war or, God forbid, children, I mean, it's very important to say, look, I appreciate your friendship, but this is something we cannot go into. There are limits, right? There are limits as to what we men can allow in this world, because there's a lot of bad things going on in the world, right? All because of men not putting limits on each other and themselves. But if you've never learned to do that, then it's quite hard maybe. So we have to talk about that. As men amongst each other, we have to limit certain ideas and topics and say, look, this is not what we're going to do. This is not the way it's going to go. So, and this touches the topic of death as well, right? When you die, like that experience is going to be quite intense. And I tend to believe it's going to be related to how we lived our lives. Now you may make a joke of it and say, oh well, we'll see, or I don't believe in any of that, but I wouldn't mess around with God's judgment too much, if at all. I don't. And you can already see it in dreams maybe, right? You have certain dreams that are not making sense or are on the evil side of the spectrum or painful or whatever. You have to kind of understand that when you die, there may be a period of dreaming also, of visions, and you want it to be pleasant, I guess. Whatever is going to come, whatever is happening, you want it to be pleasant. Now you may say this world is so full of evil, is there even good in the universe? It's a valid question sometimes. But even if you're the only one that decides to do good, means there is good in the universe. And I think this is very important. Don't think too much about other people. If you do well, if you do good, then you are the good in the universe. And I like to believe that that's going to be rewarded. And even if there's no reward, right? Yeah, I mean, even if there's no reward doing good, basically doing what is expected of us, basically doing the normal thing, why should there be a reward? There should be a reward for helping people in need and actually giving some of your money that you cannot spend, actually, that you really need. Maybe that's more worthy of a reward. But even if there's no reward, just feel what feels well. If you have not become too bitter and evil, just feel what feels good to do. And I think 99.9% of the people will realize what that is. There are just certain forces that you just don't want to mess around with. And the sense of peace and joy that comes with that is very, very useful. And even contemplating about it in relation to your own family is very useful because you can help them out. You can steer them in the right direction. But it can only happen if you also steer yourself in the right direction. I'm in no way or shape or form perfect. I use cuss words all the time, and I still have a lot of work to do. But by refraining from the worst kind of acts, at least I hope to build somewhat of a platform from which I can build and do things that are actually good and actually worthy of maybe a good judgment. So that's what I wanted to tell. I think it may be useful to some of you. I think it's very important to talk amongst each other about these things, because certain topics are so painful that we don't talk about it. Whether it has happened in the Catholic Church or whatever, it's something that is inside us humans, and we have to discuss it, and we have to kind of find our way in that, in laying that pagan history aside and growing out of that. And like the Buddhists say, the most beautiful lotus flower grows from the mud inside of the pond. Now, I don't want to go Buddhist on you. I'm very well aware that most of you listening are Christians, and I consider myself a Christian as well. But we can grow from whatever plays inside of us. And for some of you that's far worse than for me maybe, or whatever. But we can rise, and we can grow, and we can become better. And that will radiate around us, and that will inspire other people to do that as well. I hope, hopefully in my case, my children. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say about it, because it's a heated topic. I don't want to insult anybody. I don't want to push anyone's buttons or cause them to have a bad day. But I have full faith in every single one of you that you will find your way in this. So thank you for listening. Thank you for joining me while having a pipe and a thought. It's a privilege, and I hope to see you soon. Bye bye.